Hello, hello! I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. Before we get started, this is your spoiler warning for One Piece's Marineford arc, the OG Jurassic Park, Marvel's Endgame, and the ending to Raymond Feist's Midkemia series. These are all a few years or a decade old, so you've been warned. With that out of the way, Mile 23 is when you make the lasting impressions for a given race. The start was a blur of bodies, and the finish line goes by way too quickly to remember much of anything. These last quiet moments before the final push will stand out as you either make or break the run. Therefore, this is when you study every hill, car, and blade of grass as your mind locks in those memories. On the writing side, everyone has that one book that they adore to a level which defies logic and reason. During each read-through, you may notice a new tiny detail which you have missed in every reading prior to that point. For my formative years, I read the Lord of the Rings series every summer, and every time I did, I came away with a new understanding of its characters and themes. My young mind was growing, and the novels expanded along with me, providing new insight at each turn. Now when I reread it, my impressions are influenced by the movies, so they've become both more and less than the versions I read as a kid.
Thanks to the movies and memes, there are moments which are further crystallized in my mind. From Boromir's "One does not simply walk into Mordor" to Gandalf's defiant "You shall not pass." No matter how old I get, those scenes and lines will be unforgettable, whether in book or movie form. These are my 5 ways to make a moment memorable. Number 1, defy expectations. In The Return of the King, at the battle on Pelennor Fields in front of Minas Tirith, the Witch King of Angmar was annihilating humans left and right, winning the battle for Mordor and the orcs. Eowyn and Merry, the characters we're following, were knocked from her horse and all hope seemed lost. This was further exacerbated by the fact that the Witch King explained a prophecy in which not by the hand of man shall he fall. Then the secretly woman warrior Eowyn stabs him right in his shadowed face and saves the day, winning the battle for the forces of good. Because Tolkien is very cut and dry about which side stands for evil and which side is good. Yes, technically in the book version, Merry's sword was specially crafted to be effective against dark magic and may have unbound the Witch King from this world when he struck first, thus allowing Eowyn's bravery to shine through as she ultimately defeated the Witch King. By having the normal human defeat the seemingly immortal force, Eowyn's courageous strike stands out among the 15 plus hours of film. Number 2, Buildup. The complete opposite to number 1, foreshadow that a critical moment is coming. Have a main character struggle with some new form of magic. Maybe when they first join the party, they are bragging about how incredible this powerful spell will be, but during the first fight, they trip and falter and nothing happens, requiring them to be saved by some other party member. To make this feel earned, the spell needs to be defined, but should be severely undervalued. For example, it could be intended to grow a tree, and when it finally gets unleashed, it regrows a full forest. Well, now in the final battle with everything on the line, this character has found the missing piece inside themselves and completes the spell. This saves the day and wins the fight without being a deus ex machina, as it's been foreshadowed for so long rather than introducing some surprise cheat. Number 3, I'll let Robert Muldoon from Jurassic Park say it for me.
Clever girl.
Outsmart the readers by including an ingenious moment they never saw coming. All the pieces have been laid out before them for them to solve, but they may be told out of order or conveyed in a way so that they appear to be irrelevant. Maybe the story's pace has picked up so quickly that it doesn't give readers a chance to understand the foreshadowing so that they won't know what's coming. Kind of like a raptor who's seen picking apart a carcass while we know that they hunt together in packs. It's pretty obvious if you think about it that was a decoy while the other raptor circled around and hunted Muldoon who was hunting them. This is like the on your left moment during Endgame. Despite Marvel's attempts to keep the information secret, we knew all the heroes were coming back to life after the snap. The only questions were when and how. Yet the heroes returning to life felt earned for how simplistic it was portrayed, despite being inevitable. That moment brought a cheer across the theater, which I will fondly remember sharing with complete strangers. On a side note, and to bring running back into focus, I absolutely love the "on your left" phrase, because when it was originally said in Captain America Winter Soldier, they were running along one of my old courses. The Lincoln Memorial, the Tidal Basin, the Reflecting Pool, the National Mall, all of it. I used to go through there for my long runs. In fact, the imagined island that the Triskelion, the building, is on, which doesn't in fact exist, neither the island nor the building, was practically on top of my old apartment. Tangents aside, number 4, the sudden emotional shift. This works best when the characters, and by association the audience, woefully underestimate the stakes and challenges. This is your last spoiler warning for One Piece's Marineford arc, which aired over a decade ago. This was the single greatest turning point across the vast series, and one which should be experienced firsthand without any advanced knowledge. Spoilers begin in 3, 2, 1, okay. A little backstory on One Piece first. It's the story of a pirate captain named Monkey D. Luffy. Pretty far into the series, his brother Ace hunts down an evil pirate captain, and unfortunately he gets defeated. Ace is then captured and scheduled to be put to death. A major pirate offensive delays the execution and allows Luffy to climactically arrive on the scene. Up to this point in the series, the tone has been reasonably lighthearted, despite horrifying backstories for almost every character. Luffy and his crew rose to each challenge and achieved victory, even when freeing a crewmate from government headquarters. Prior to arriving at his brother's execution, Luffy escaped from an impenetrable prison, making him seem unstoppable. With the help of hundreds of pirates, Luffy rescues Ace, and the pair start fighting soldiers in what feels like a heroic moment. That's when everything goes wrong. In an instant, all positive momentum and sense of impending victory gets snatched away by a vice admiral who kills Ace in a sudden blow. This was arguably the greatest turning point across the series. Yet within the battle itself, it became so much more iconic because seconds prior to Luffy's brother's death, all of their goals appeared to be lining up so that they could achieve victory. There were casualties across the battle, but none of them were significant to the main characters until that single death. Immediately following it, the tides of battle shifted against the pirates as they struggled to survive, and one by one, heroes among them fell. In a series with over 1,000 manga chapters, the one panel of Luffy's brother's death stands out as arguably the most momentous. More so because it clashed against the preceding pages with their sense of impending victory, only for the heroes to falter after. And lastly, number 5, spectacle. Wow those readers. This is much more difficult to do with the written word rather than a movie. Movies are aided by music to influence our mood, or cinematography to show us something we have never seen before. Jumping back to the first Jurassic Park movie, the initial spectacle of moving dinosaurs made my childhood head explode. The closest thing I can think of to those CGI dinosaurs was found in old claymation films, which were utterly surpassed by that wide landscape shot, with numerous dinosaurs drinking from the pond or grazing, all while the master composer John Williams has his symphony crescendo into one of its big themes. I felt a similar emotional pull in Raymond Feist's Magician's End. After 30 years, he landed his Midkemia series with a fitting conclusion. Over the course of the final epilogue, he evoked the same emotions I felt when I first read about the orphan boy Pug as he wandered along the storm-tossed rocks of coastal Crete. Here, the quiet spectacle was future-focused, setting up a new wizard when the previous one sacrificed himself to save all lives across all realms. After showcasing a grateful crowd celebrating and tying up loose ends in the previous chapter, this final send-off stood out for me for how it highlighted the next hero to rise, carrying the weight of the predecessor. Those are my 5 strategies to create those wondrous moments and raise your stories to those memorable pinnacles. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in another episode of Running to Write. How do you write those moments which are so good they make readers briefly close the book just to soak in your words for a few minutes? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy my opinions, then go ahead and press those like and subscribe buttons just right there off screen. If you don't like my content, then convince one of your enemies to like, share, and subscribe. I promise to keep them occupied and distracted while you plot their demise. See you next time. Until then, write those unforgettable moments.